各位家长、各位同学，大家早上好、晚上好，也欢迎来到 InAmerica Education 在美国即将于2023年本科申请的系列讲座。今天我们将要共同探讨的话题呢是如何使你的大学文书脱颖而出。那我们也希望给大家扫除一些文书写作上面的盲区，也给大家一些怎么样写好文书、写独特的文书一些好的 tips。我是在美国技教育背景提升和本科申请顾问，我叫杨，很高兴能够作为本场的讲座的主持人，和大家共同探讨这个非常多同学都很关心也很困惑的话题。Okay, dear parents and students, good morning in North America and good evening in Asia. Welcome to the InAmerica Education 2023 webinar series. We are discussing how to make your essay unique today. I am the Associate Consultant for College Preparation and Background Enrichment at InAmerica Education. My name is Yang. I am very glad to help with this event and discuss this hot topic with two of our amazing consultants. 今天我们也是非常有幸请到了我们两位 InAmerica 非常资深的导师来为大家做分享，他们是来自本科申请部门的招帅老师和我们的前招生官顾问 Quinn 老师。Today we are having two of our amazing consultants here as guest speakers. They are senior consultant from college admission team Joshua and senior former admission officer consultant Quinn. 在正式开始我们今天的讲座之前呢，我们也首先想要有请我们的两位老师分别做一下自我介绍。Okay, before we step in our contents, we will invite Joshua and Quinn to do a brief self-introduction. Joshua, do you want to give us a brief self-introduction to our audience?
Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here. Again, my name is Joshua. I am the Associate Director for the College Division at InAmerica. I've been working in college admissions for about 11 years. I started off in graduate school admissions at Harvard Law School. After that, I went to get my master's degree at the University of Pennsylvania in higher education. And since then, I've been working for a mix of universities and also consulting. I've been consulting now for about 7 years. So very excited to be here.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you, Joshua, for joining.
Sorry to
go
jump
ahead,
in. I'm excited to talk essays. I'm ready to go. My name is Quinn F. I am a senior consultant / former admissions officer for InAmerica. I've been in college admissions for about 8 years at this point. I started off working at Northwestern University, which is where I have my master's degree from, in their undergraduate admissions office. I then moved to the East Coast for a cup of coffee. I worked at Johns Hopkins University for 2 years, reviewing their applications and recruiting for them. And then I missed Chicago so much, I moved back here, which is my home for me. And I've been here for about 4 years working in law school admissions, so reviewing those applications and recruiting those students. So I'm excited to be here to talk to you about essays today.
Thanks for joining, Queen. 所以呢，我们两位老师他们呢都是有非常丰富的本科申请以及规划的经验。那像招少老师呢，他在宾夕法尼亚大学的教育学院毕业，然后呢已经是有7年的这个本科申请和规划的经验。他也曾经在沃顿商学院和哈佛大学担任招生的工作。那 Quinn 老师呢，他也是一位非常资深的招生官和本科申请顾问。他曾经在西北大学以及约翰霍普金斯大学都担任过招生的工作，对于学校的招生工作呢也非常的了解。在近年来呢，也一直指导着我们 InAmerica 学生的这个通往名校的这个道路。那接下来呢，我们就想要看一下我们今天的主要话题是什么。那对于文书写作，我们将在以下几个方面进行一些深入的分享。那首先我们会讨论说什么是这个主文书，那什么是辅助文书，那这两个概念分别在申请中是怎么样被运用到，以及说它们有什么特点呢？第二个话题呢是如何为你的文书选择一个适当的话题。那第三个也就是说在你的这个主文书中使你的声音脱颖而出，使你的这个话题也好，还有内容也好，都打磨的非常的独特。那我们有什么样的一些经验和方法可以帮助到 大家同学们。那第4个话题呢，是关于如何去修改你的文书，那让你的文书呢，能够修改的更好，能够更精准的反映出你个人的这个实际情况。Okay, I would love to give a brief overview on our 4 topics today. So the first topic is about 2 basic concepts. What is the main essay and what is a supplemental essay? And the second topic is about how to choose a topic for your main essay. And third one is find your voice in the main essay. That's saying how to make your story and your narrative to be more unique and find your own voice. And the fourth one is how to revise your essay effectively, which is also very important in drafting your essay and also polishing your essay at the last stage. Okay, without further delay, let's move on to the first topic. So what is main essay and what is supplemental essay? Joshua, do you want to share a little bit about the 2 concepts?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Common Application, or the Common App, is the main application used by most colleges in the United States. Within the Common App, you're going to find 2 types of essays: the main essay, which is sometimes referred to as the personal essay, and supplemental essays. Now, the main essay is going to be sent to typically every school an applicant applies to. So it's one essay that's going to go out to everyone, whereas supplemental essays are school specific. So those are set by each school individually, and they only go to that one school. Now, the main essay and supplemental essays also have some differences in terms of their typical size. The main essay for the Common Application is limited to 650 words, which is about a page and a half. Now, supplemental essays can be that long. Harvard, for example, usually asks for another 650-word essay as a part of their application. However, typically they are much shorter. So typically you'd see supplemental essays in the 200 to 400-word range. So they usually do differ in size. And there's no limit to how many supplemental essays a college can ask for. So the main essay on the Common App, it's just one essay that goes out to everyone. But then a college could ask for 1, 2, or even 6 or 7 supplemental essays. So there is some variability there.
Thanks for sharing, Joshua. 所以呢，Joshua老师也给我们介绍了一下什么是主文书以及什么是补充文书。那主文书呢，其实是在我们的 Common App 上你必须要写的一篇文书，而且呢，它是基本上是会被发给所有你申请的所有学校的一篇文书。它也回答了你是一个什么样的人，那基本上你希望让大学看到你的什么样的一个特质这样的问题。而补充文书呢，它并不是每所学校都要要求的，而是特定的学校它会在它要求的基础上让你提交1篇或者2篇或者3篇或者甚至6、7篇的这个补充文书。那这个补充文书呢，也会说明它是对数量不会进行限制的，但是它对话题可能会进行一些限制，以及字数，它可能学校也对补充文书有着不同的要求，但是主文书的要求呢都是一定的。那就是说，在这个 Common App 上面的主文书，它的字数限制是650个字，所以大家在撰写主文书的时候也要注意，可能你的初稿可以超过这个字数很多，但是在之后的第2稿、第3稿的修改的时候，大家就要注意了，650个字是一个它的主文书的字数限制。大家可以在修改文书的时候着重注意这一点。Okay, then let's move on to the second topic. It's about how to choose a topic for your main essay. It is such a question that every student might ask about, like, I have many experience, so how can I choose which topic is the best fit for myself, and because it is so important, it's in the main essay and will be sent to every school. So Joshua, do you have anything to share with our student and parents?
Of course. So the first thing that I like to point out is that there's no one topic that's going to be more advantageous for you to answer than another. So each one of the questions has the same likelihood of being admitted to a college. So you don't need to worry about selecting the wrong question or anything like that. The main issue that a lot of students run into, in my opinion, is they're not answering the right question. So for example, the last essay on here says share an essay topic of your own choice. You want to make sure that the topic you're choosing couldn't fit into any of the other prompts. So making sure that you're selecting the right question is really, really important to creating an engaging and worthwhile personal essay. Other issues that I see are students who aren't making it personal enough, and they're not sort of peppering their stories with anecdotes. And I'll give you a few examples based on the questions here. So let's see, the fourth one. So reflect on a time when someone has done something that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. A lot of students might share a wonderful story about how they interacted with someone else. The story might focus exclusively on that other person and not show a lot of depth to who they are personally. So you want to make sure that your essays are always focusing on you, not just a story that's happening to you. Another thing that I find students struggle with is one topic can be used for multiple questions. So I think a great example of this is 1 in 6. So some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that's so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. Compared to 6, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging and makes you lose all track of time. You could easily use the same topic for this, but even though they're very similar, what matters most is the second part of that question. Why does it captivate you? Who or what do you turn to learn more? This should really be the heart of your essay. So I always like to point out that a lot of these questions have a sentence which provides you the context of the essay, and then a sentence which provides you with the real meat in the heart of what you should be getting at. So let's take another example, number 3, reflect on a time where you question or challenge a belief or idea. What prompted this thinking? What was the outcome? Questioning the belief or idea is only a part of the answer. So that story that you're sharing with us should only be the very beginning. And the real meat and potatoes, the real heart of your answer should be what prompted that thinking and what was the outcome. You always want to make sure you're focusing on the resolution for you, the person.
Thanks for sharing, Joshua. 赵少老师在这个话题上给了我们就是很精炼的以及很重要的一些建议哈。老师首先说了，其实不管就是你选择哪一个话题，你都有相同的几率被大学所赞赏，或者是被大学所录取。大学对于这7个话题是没有一个偏向性的，不是说你写第一个话题你就更容易，可能大学可能就更喜欢你的文书，这个是不存在的。所以我们在选择话题的过程中，我们其实就是要选择自己更有发言权的，自己更适合的这样的一种话题，而不是说去揣摩 OK 什么样的话题是大学更容易去看到去获得录取的。那这是一个学生们在写作过程中可能存在的一个误区，老师想要就是在一开始的时候就点出这个问题，希望大家不要在这个事情上有过多的纠结。那同时赵少老师也分享到说，其实选择某一个话题的话，大家一定要看清楚这个话题的一些要求。那比如说老师举例说第4个话题它需要你去描述你发生的你所做的或者说其他人所为你做的一些事情，然后让你感觉到这个幸福或者是惊喜。那在这个过程中你就一定要注意，那这个事情你写的事情是不是有谁为你做的，还是说你写的事情只是说你看到的或者发生过的一件事情。那这个如果说你写的是后者，那你其实就偏离题目了。所以说大家在分析题目的时候一定要看清楚它的要求是写的是对你的话对你的故事有什么样的一个要求。那可能还会有一些故事呢或者话题，你觉得我的个人经历2个话题其实都很符合，那在这个时候我需要怎么选择，或者是我在选择一个话题的时候我需要注意些什么呢？那其实比如说第1个和第6个话题，大家就会发现有时候其实我的故事可能都适用。那在这个过程中大家也要记住看这一个话题中它有几个问题。那比如说第6个第7个问题，或者说第3个问题，他们都在前一个小问之后提出了后面的说 OK 那你有什么样的启发，或者说有什么样的成果。那在这种 情况下，我们就不仅要写出你的故事，而是更要写出 OK， 那我的启发是什么？我的可能结果，我的举措措施是什么？以及这会对我的未来造成什么样的影响？我觉得这也是非常重要的一个方面，就是说你在写作的时候千万不能漏掉，或者是写错这样的一个要求。这大家在选择话题的时候也可以注意这一些可能有的误区和漏洞。Okay, I think Quinn also has something to share about how to choose a topic for students. Quinn, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And just kind of one thing I wanted to add about that previous slide in the Common App essay is just as an admissions officer, when I review your application, I never even looked at the prompt you chose, to be candid with you. I just jumped right into whatever you were talking about, because I'm not trying to judge you based off of how well can you answer this question. I'm just trying to judge you based off of what you write. So Joshua is absolutely correct in that you want to make sure you choose the right prompt, because there are probably admissions officers out there that are paying attention to that. But for me personally, when I was reviewing applications, I didn't have time to check out which prompt you're using. I just jumped right into your essay. So everything that's been shared so far about personal statements is absolutely right. And I think another point that is really important that Joshua definitely made that kind of ties into this first one about being passionate is, students so often I see them write about, someone or something that's inspired them, and then it just takes up their entire essay. And they are passionate about that person or that other topic, but it's not really about you, right? So you want to make sure that even if sort of the setting for your story or the context for your story is something or someone that has sort of happened to you, if you will, we gotta bring it back. We gotta have it be about you. And then to just kind of, further that point, you want to make sure that whatever you're writing about is something that you are really invested in, right? Something that you feel very strongly about one way or another. Maybe it's something you're really happy about. Maybe it's something you feel really sad or even angry about. I don't know, but just make sure that, whatever it is you're writing about, it shouldn't be some just kind of random topic or story or experience that you just kind of thought about because of this essay, right? It should be something that is already kind of an important part of your mental headspace, if you will, something that you are, constantly thinking about or just engaging with or experiencing, right? That's going to make writing so much better. It's going to make editing so much easier. To have that passion is really important when you're writing. I guess that second bullet point we've already talked about once or twice now, but definitely make sure it's about you. That's super important. It's really lovely when you read a nice long essay about how, your mom has inspired you, but then it just kind of ends, right? And it doesn't tell me who do you actually want to be in the future now? Like, what does that mean for you as a person, your character, your identities, right? So even if you have something that we would call set the stage, right? A person who has influenced you in some way, that's fine, but it has to very quickly change gears to be about you. Joshua mentioned before, your personal statement, 650 words maximum. That's going to go by really fast. You have to be super efficient in your writing. It's not that much space to say what you want to say. Okay. So efficient, effective writing is really important here. So this is a point that I always like to make, and I think it catches some people off guard, but I'll tell you why I like to make it. So we talk about making your essay unique, and we want it to be, as unique as we can make it, right? But the reality of applying to colleges is that there are millions of other students applying to colleges, not millions applying to one single school. But hey, even when I worked at, Northwestern or Hopkins, we would be getting 30,000 apps a year, 40,000 apps a year. And when you really start to boil it down, how many different stories are there, right? There are some that are super unique. There are some that are super different because people have just had kind of extraordinary things happen to them or they've accomplished in their life. But I think if you spend so much time just worrying about, is this going to be different from everyone else? That's just not a great usage of your time. What you should focus on is making sure that whatever you write about is genuine, it's authentic, it's coming from you, it's your story. There's a good chance that your story, whether you mean that in kind of the very like literal sense or more just kind of you as a person, there are going to be other students, there are going to be other applicants who have a very similar path, a very similar walk in life up to this point, not because you did anything wrong, but because there's, what are we at, like 7 billion people on the earth now? That's a lot. That's a lot of stories, right? And they can't all be that different from each other when you really boil it down. So just don't, my point here is don't lose sleep about, oh, is this different from everyone else's? Just make sure that it's true to you. It's true to your authentic self. And then this is the last thing the last point I like to make. And I never really thought about this until I had one of my older brothers went to Columbia Law School. And when he was applying maybe 5 or 6 years ago, he wrote his sort of statement of purpose or his personal essay for that application and his law school applications generally. And he emailed me, and I distinctly remember reading this in an essay, or in an airport rather. He emailed me his essay and he said, here's my vision. Here's what I want the reader to feel or want them to know about me. Here's what I want them to think about me after they finish reading it. He told me that before I even got the chance to read it. So I said, okay, I've got that picture in my mind. I know what you want to accomplish. Then I read his essay, and then I worked with him to say, okay, we got to this point. I feel this way about you. Yes, this other point you wanted to make, this other identity you wanted to sort of describe, it didn't come across because of X, Y, or Z, right? So this requires some higher level thinking, but it's important, right? Think about you at the end of the day with an admissions officer. What do you want them to know about you? What do you want them to think about you? What do you want them to take away from your story when they're making their little scribbly notes digitally in your application, where they're just writing down a couple words or phrases to summarize what your personal essay was about that goes into the rest of your sort of application review file? What do you want those couple little notes to say? Okay. And then give that essay to someone else, right? Hopefully you're having other people read your essay just already for proofreading purposes. But it doesn't just have to be, oh, this comma should go here, this period should go there, right? You can have them help you with that vision as well and accomplishing that vision, and see if they agree. And if they don't agree, see what their reasons are and see if they're valid, see if you can strengthen it. So that was a lot of information. I really apologize for the incoming translation. That's sure to be difficult, but I trust you can definitely hit those bullet points. And yeah, those are some thoughts I have.
Thank you, Quinn, and thanks for listing the bullet points. I think I can do it. 好的，刚才 Quinn 老师呢，也是分享了非常多他个人非常好的、非常珍贵的这样的一些见解啊。首先，他就提到说，其实他作为这个招生官老师呢，他在看每一篇文书的时候，他花费的时间一定要是非常少的，因为这样的话，他才能够去阅读这个非常大量的申请者的这样的一个文书。所以说他其实不会关注说 OK 你选择了哪一个话题，他会更多的关注说 OK 那不管在哪一个话题上，你的这个文书的内容是不是写出了你自己的真实的这个故事，以及说你从里面得到的这样的一些启发。所以这也是我们刚刚所提到过的，不要特别的纠结说你选择哪个话题去写，而是说 OK 我真正有感悟的是什么，那对我人生已经有非常大的影响的这样的一种话题是什么，那从这个下手，那可能对大家来说会比较容易一点，也不是那么纠结一点。好，那讲到说选择话题之后，那其实也还是有其他的一些这个策略的。那比如说你要一定要确定说你写的这个东西是你所真正认同的，或者说你是对它是有热情的，而不是说 OK 我想我一定要写这个 essay， 所以我才随便想起一件事情我把它放进去吧，不是这样的，而是你要去思考说哪些事情是即使我不写这个 essay， 那其实在我人生中也是扮演了非常重要的角色，对我人生有非常重大的 影响。那这样的一种热情其实是可以体现在你的这个写作中的，而不是说你通过一个非常干巴巴的叙述来讲一个故事，来一定要去把它放进这个话题下面。那这个其实从老师的角度来讲，大家也其实是可以看出来你在这个生搬硬套，这样其实是非常不利于你这个话题的延展的。所以大家在写文书之前，选择话题之前，也要问自己一个问题：什么样的经历是对我人生目前以来是让我非常有热情，以及对我影响非常大的？那第二点呢，Quinn 老师也提到说，你一定要确保说你的这个essay， 你的这个文书是关于你自己的。就是你可以在里面写到说其他人，写到比如说你在家庭中所做的一些事情，或者说你跟你妈妈发生的一些矛盾和和解，但是呢你一定要把这个最终的落脚点放在你自己身上，其他人在这个过程中只能是参与的一方。如果说你写着写着写成了别人的事情，或者是其他家庭一般家庭都会发生的事情，那这个时候其实你是失去了你的特点，在这个文书以及话题的选择上面。那第三个点呢，老师也提到说，其实因为我们今天的主题是怎么样能够让我们的文书脱颖而出，怎么样变得独特。但是呢，如果说你在这个过程中，写作的过程中，或者是选择话题的过程中，你一直在想说，我怎么样才能让我的这个话题脱颖而出？我要选择什么样的一个故事来写我的这个话题，才能够跟其他人都不一样？那其实是非常浪费时间，也非常投入的性价比也是非常低的。因为这个世界上有那么多的申请者，那他们写的话题可能只有很少的人写的话题是跟其他人完全不一样的，那一定是因为他们的人生中发生了非常重大的事情。而其他的学生呢，其实从这个话题上来说，或者说从事情的选择上来说，那其实都是大同小异的。那与其说在花费很多时间想说 OK 我怎么样能让我的这个话题变得很独特，那不如你想一下我怎么样能够真实的写出我的想法，因为你本身就已经是你独立的以及很有特色的很真诚的一个个体。OK， 那在最后一个点上呢，老师也给了一个建议，就是说其实呢你作为一个文书的写作者，你也可以让别人为你参考，说 OK 我的这个话题是不是能够引起读者的一个兴趣，或者说是不是能让读者能够知道 OK 我的观点是什么，我的想法是什么，那你是不是去认可呢？那在这个过程中其实形成了一个大家一起来帮你想说 OK 这个逻辑链条是不是完整的，以及说他们是不是同意你在这个文章中表达的这样的一种观点。所以也可以模拟一个到时候招生官老师看你的文书的这样的一个流程，那相信对于你的文书写作也是非常的有帮助的。Okay, let's move on to the next topic. It's about find your voice in the main essay. So Joshua, do you want to go ahead first?
Yeah, of course. So this one we've touched upon before, but one of the biggest mistakes you can make in your personal essay is to not make it personal. Only you should be able to share the story. So as Quinn was already mentioning, the goal should not be to be unique, but the personal reflections that you're bringing into that essay, those should all be unique to you. So the topic itself might be applicable to dozens of different applicants, but what you're saying about it should only be in your own words. Write in a conversational tone. The way you speak, you should write. Steer clear of overly formal language. As an admissions reader, one thing I try to convey to all my students is we want to be communicated with the way you want to be communicated with, which is clear, direct writing. You should stay away from overly verbose or complicated writing. You want it to be easy to understand. I always like to remind my students to think of the ease of the read. Put yourself in the admissions reader's shoes. Don't rely heavily on quotes. This essay should be in your own voice, not someone else's words. One of the main reasons why I tell students to steer clear of quotes is because it's a waste of space in an already short essay. You don't want to make other people's words the focal point of this piece of writing that's supposed to be very personal and unique to you. So try to be very limited in your use of quotes if you're going to use them at all. Admissions officers are going to be asking, who is this person, and trying to determine if you'd be a good fit for their school. And they want to see the real you. So don't try to be someone you think the school wants to see. This isn't about being the perfect applicant for Harvard. It's about being your true, authentic self and impressing Harvard with that person. So it's not about, again, crafting this sort of false narrative about yourself, rather putting your best foot forward.
Thanks for sharing, Joshua. 好的，Joshua老师呢分享了一些关于如何在这个主文书中找到你自己的声音。其实也就是说，如何让这个故事，更是你的故事，而不是说，你去生搬硬套的，或者是为了写这个文书而写的一个故事。那其实有一些点呢，我们刚刚也已经提到过。那现在呢，我也为大家整理一下Joshua老师刚刚分享的一些经验。那首先一个非常大的误区，大家在写作过程中可能经常会犯的，就是我们一直在说要让你的文书变得这个独特，但是你在写作的过程中要写出，就是说 OK， 这是我自己的故事，这是我自己真正发生过的，而不是说我为了写的这个独特，我就去可能写的一些天花乱坠的东西。这个时候我们一定要基于自己的这个真实的情况去选择这个故事，去写这个故事，因为只有你其实是能去分享你的这个故事的。那第二呢，就是说大家有时候会想说，那这个文书我要以什么样的方式去写作呢？我是不是应该用正式的这种学术性写作的语言去写呢？那其实不是的。那我们希望大家用的是一种日常生活的叙述性的语言语调去写这样的一个主文书，去写你的故事。这样的话，我们就会感觉说 OK， 好像招生官老师和你是在面对面的去进行交流，而不是说好像在看你写一个学术文章这样子。所以这也是大家在写作中可能会犯的一个误区。那第三点呢，是关于不要说依赖特别多在什么上面呢？就是在引用一些引经据典的可能名言啊，或者是成语啊，在这些方面上。因为你的文章其实是你想要发出的声音，或者说你的故事。那如果说你特别的去引用非常多别人的话，或者说去引用别的故事的话，那可能招生官也会想说，那这是不是你的真实想法呢？还是说你只是想套一个故事上去呢？所以这一点大家也可以在写作中多多的注意。那最后一点呢，是老师分享的呢，是关于说其实招生官在看你的文章的时候呢，会想说，那这个同学他是一个什么样的同学呢？那这个同学是不是很适合我们的学校呢？这个时候其实是招生官自己判断的一个过程。但是呢，我们在写作的过程中，其实不一定非要去贴合说 OK，我想上这个学校，我就一定要写跟这个学校相关的东西，或者是我一定要去猜测说这个学校喜欢什么样的东西，我再去写。那在这个过程中，其实就是又绕了圈子的过程，因为这其实不是你的工作，而是招生官在他们改这个文书的过程中，需要去招生官在批阅，就是在看这个文书的过程中去进行的一个工作。All right, we also have some strategy from former admission officer. So Quinn, feel free to share your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. So on this idea of, finding your voice and sharing that in your essay, this isn't an opportunity for you to try out a brand new style of writing or brand new you, right? This isn't the time for the new you. This is the time for whoever you've been, and sort of those experiences that add up to the whole part of you. So if you are just a naturally kind of loose, funny, laid back kind of person, great, let's do that in your writing, because admissions officers want to see who you really are. If you are not a super funny person, and that's not a bad thing, it's just some people are naturally very comedic or funny in their writing, and some people are much more just kind of straightforward and to the point, then don't try out a whole bunch of new jokes that you're going to tell at your stand-up set, right? So just be very, try to have that be reflective of who you are. You don't need to try out a bunch of new tones or a bunch of new things with this essay. This goes back to the topic of unique versus authentic, but don't waste your time being like, oh, are other applicants going to be writing this same story or saying the same thing? Just worry about you, your identities, your experiences, and cover those in your essay, and the rest will take care of itself, right? This is just college admissions in general. You're going to be competing against a ton of other students, and you can't control at all what they write, what their grades are, what their test scores are. You can't control any of that. It's not your job. It's not up to you. So you just have to focus on making you the best possible applicant for each college and university. And then remember, and this is big time personal experience here, when I would read for Northwestern, but much more definitely for Johns Hopkins, I would average probably 15 seconds, 1-5, when I was reading a personal statement. It goes by very fast. We just don't have time to read, every single sentence, every single word. That's what happens when you get, 35,000 applications in a year, right? It's just the nature of it. So going back to what I was saying earlier about like sharing your vision and having people, try to discern that when they read. Try to get inside the admissions officer's head. Think, if I was going to spend 15 seconds reading this and I had to take some notes to summarize what was it about? How do I structure my essay? How do I write my essay so that they can effectively do that? Because that's what they're going to have time for. So for example, if your personal statement is just one long entire block of text with no paragraph breaks or anything like that, that's my nightmare, because it's really hard for me to kind of read what that is about when it's just the same structure all throughout. There's no break or anything like that. So having a good compelling hook at the beginning is important, but you don't have to go all the way with it and just have like the most like cheesy hook of all time just because someone said you had to have a good hook, right? Have it be true to your story. And then, tell that story, have that plot be that, have that be the middle section of your essay, if you will. But don't have your entire essay just be plot, right? I want to make sure that when we get to the end, there's some good reflections, there's some good takeaways, things that tell me as an admissions officer, who do you want to be in the future? What does this mean for you as a student on my college campus? So the last thing I'll say is just as when I read these essays, I pretty much take about 2 seconds to read the first or 2 sentences just to get a sense of what it's about. I then spend another maybe 5 or 6 seconds kind of skimming through the body, the plot, the topic sentences to get a good sense of what's the story you're telling. And then as much time as I need, but usually about 10 seconds or so to kind of look at those reflections at the end and kind of write down my notes and see, what did they learn? How did they grow? That sort of thing. And that's what I had time for, because there's a lot of other things in your application to look at, right? And so that's just how I reviewed personal statements. I'm sure that there are people out there, admissions officers out there, who spend more time because that's just how their sort of file review is structured. There might be people who spend less time, although it's hard to spend less time than that. But I just wanted to share with you that that's how we did it when I was at Hopkins and at Northwestern. So I guess those would be my points here.
Thanks, Quinn, for the tips. 所以 Quinn 老师呢，也分享了几点我觉得非常重要的这个技巧啊，在这个文书写作的过程中，怎么样让你的文书变得更加的独特。那首先呢，老师就说，这写文书呢，其实不是给你一个创新的机会，而是让你写出你原本是什么样的一个人的这样的一个机会。那如果你在这个生活中就是一个非常诙谐幽默的这样的一种人呢，那你在文书的语言上就可以写得非常的诙谐幽默。如果你在本来生活中你就是一个比较严肃的人呢，那你在文书写作中就不要试图去搞笑或者是写一些幽默的片段，因为这样的话你就会非常的不像你自己，你也不一定能写出很好的东西来。所以还是那句话，大家要在这个写作过程中保持你的 真实，去试图记录你的这个真实的故事和真实的想法。那第二点其实也是跟这个相关的，就是说在这个过程中，其实在文书写作过程中是对你自己保持真实、保持真诚的一个过程。这个时候你其实不要去想说别的申请者他们写了什么，或者说别的申请者他们写的是不是比我写的更好更独特。其实如果说你去想太多这个东西的话，就对你其实是一种内耗的过程。那在这个过程中呢，我们也鼓励大家说就是在专注于你自己的写作，而不要去一直想说 OK 别人在写什么，那我怎么样能够比他们写的更好这件事情。好的，那第三点呢，Quinn 老师分享的，那其实是关于从招生官的角度，他们是怎么看每一篇文书的。那首先，还是那句话，招生官只能用很少的时间去看大家的文章，所以说呢，其实一开始的这个点睛之笔或者是引入，有时候还是非常重要的，因为他们可能说 OK 我想先看一下前一两句话，能够看出这个文章是写什么的。如果在这个过程中你的前一两句话写的就比较有趣，比较引人入胜，那跟你的这个话题又是紧密相关的，那这个其实能够就让他说 OK 那我要看一下他接下来是要写什么样的故事，以及他以后如果被录取了，在我的校园中会是什么样的一个学生。那所以说大家其实是在开头这个部分是可以多花一些心思去想说我怎么样去进行一个开头，去进行一个这样的引入，其实也是一个非常重要，或者说也是一个大家可以用起来的这样的一个小技巧。Okay, then let's move on to the last question is about the revision of the main essay. So for this part, do you have any tips to share with our audience, Joshua?
Yeah, absolutely. I find that students want to revise their personal essay over and over and over and over and over again. It seems like a never-ending process because they want it to be perfect, and I completely understand that. But what I suggest is think about sort of the end goal. So your essay should be clear. It should clearly answer the prompt and be well organized. It should tell a compelling and engaging story. It should have a clear theme and message and convey the writer's values. The essay should provide new and important information that the applicant can't share elsewhere in the application. And of course, it should show a mastery of grammar, spelling, and punctuation. So as you're writing, ask yourself, does the essay answer the prompt? Is the essay well organized and cohesive? Does the writer tell a compelling and engaging story? And does the essay have a clear theme or message? If you can't answer yes to all of these, you're not done with the revision process. And be aware of the overall balance of your essay. Make sure that you're giving enough context and balancing that with a clear resolution. And I think about the essay questions that ask about, let's say, an obstacle or a challenge that you're facing. If you're spending 80 to 90% of your essay on that obstacle or challenge, and then only 10 to 20% on the resolution, it's going to feel incredibly imbalanced. And it can also negatively impact the tone of your essay. So for example, if I'm spending 80% talking about the obstacle, it's going to have a very heavy sort of depressed tone to it because I'm not spending enough time talking about the resolution or the part that's uplifting you.
Thank you, Joshua. 在这个文书修改的这个方面呢，老师们其实会发现一个现象，就是说有的同学他是一遍一遍的改这篇文章，然后越改越焦虑，越改越觉得我这个是不是写的还不够好，或者是我还有哪些部分可以提高，我其实已经看不出来了。那在这个过程中呢，老师建议说，千万不要在修改中做这个无头的苍蝇，而是说，在这个修改中，你要问自己这么几个问题。那首先，你是不是回答了你选择的话题，以及说你是不是完成了这个文书要求中的所有的要求，比如说字数要求是不是达到了，那每一个话题中的每一个问题是不是回答了，以及说你的语言语法用词是不是都已经使用正确。那这些问题呢，其实是你应该去对照着看看你的修改内容是不是已经修改好了。如果有一个问题你没有达到呢，那就说明你还需要进行修改。如果说你觉得你都达到了，那 OK， 那你可以请 你的老师去给你看一下我的文章是不是已经说完全的修改好了。那另外呢，你还可以去回答的问题或者说对照的问题呢，就是说你的这个文章呢，它的结构是不是非常的明晰？那是不是每个结构之间的这个转折或者是顺承，它这样的关系都已经打造好了。那以及下一个问题，可能你需要注意的就是说，那我作为这个文书的作者，我有没有描述一个非常引人入胜的故事，或者说我的故事是不是已经完整了，并且说大家可以可读性比较强，大家是可以一直读下去的。那最后一个问题你可以去思考的就是说，那你的文书是不是有一个非常清晰的主题，以及非常清晰的你想要传达的内容。那这些其实都是你在文书的这个修改的阶段那都可以去考虑的一个问题。所以在修改阶段呢，其实你不是要做一个一直盯着你的文书去看的这样的一个角色，你要去积极的去寻找外界的一些标准，或者说外界一些老师的帮助。好的，那其实赵少老师最后呢就提到说，大家最后呢可以总体看一下你修改的这个文书，它的这个结构是不是非常的平衡，你是不是有了这个足够丰富的这个内容在你的文书上面，那以及你是不是有了对你的面临的问题，或者说对你的故事有了更多的思考和想法。那在这个过程中，那其实也是你去思考自我，或者说去总结自己之前的这样的一种人生经历的这样的一个很好的机会。Okay, and we have some final thoughts from Joshua and Quinn. Joshua, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, of course. So one of the most important things I think is important for students to remember is that the personal essay is the only place in the application where your voice can be heard. Every other section to the application is dictated for you. How you should structure your activities list, what information should be included. It's very rigid. So this is one of the only places where students have a lot of flexibility to write about whatever they'd want to write about. So whatever you choose, make sure it's not just a story. You should be filling it with lots of personal reflections that only you can share. This way, the essay is unique to yourself. And then recognize that an admissions officer is just an everyday person. It is me, it's Quinn, it's Young, it's anyone you can think of, your parents. They just want to be communicated with the same way that you would want to be communicated with. So be direct, be cohesive, and stay away from unnecessarily complex topics. This brings me back to the point I was saying earlier about balance. If you have to spend 60% of your essay talking about a very complex topic that's difficult to understand, you're not going to have enough space in your essay to really unpack your thoughts, feelings, and emotions on it. So stay away from overly complex language, overly complex topics. Write the way you would speak.
Thank you, Joshua. Thanks for the thoughtful conclusion of all the tips. I myself feel that I have been learning a lot today. 所以Joshua老师呢，那其实在分享了几个就是最后他的一些想跟大家分享的一些建议吧。那首先第一点呢，老师就说其实在申请过程中，只有这个文书的部分是你可以写出非常的具有你的个性化特征的一些东西。那其他的一些部分呢，那都是有格式性的，就是说你要填你的个人信息啊，填你之前的成绩，包括标化考试的成绩，以及说你的活动列表。那这些其实都是没有什么空间去做改变的。但是在这个文书的过程中，是可以展现你个性的一个地方。它不是只是说你分享一个故事，而是要写出你的这样的一种人生的感悟，或者说你对于你未来的人生你前面的人生对你未来的人生会有什么样的一个影响。所以在这个过程中，其实你的故事是很独特的，大家也一定要对自己的这一点要有信心，也去努力的达到这种境界。那第二呢， 你要记住的是，其实招生官大家也都是一个普通人，你其实就用普通的方式去跟他交流就是 OK 的。如果说你用特别生涩的，或者说你觉得可能非常打引号的独特的方式去写你的东西的话，可能他也并不能在很短的时间内了解到你的想法，或者是你的非常抽象的这样的一些认知。所以呢，就是大家可以不用说特别的在这个话题的复杂性或者是叙述的复杂性上面下太多的功夫。那还是说要保证你的一个真实性，还有你分享的东西是你真正经历过，对你有非常重大影响的事情。Okay, so Quinn, do you have any other like final thoughts from the perspective of the formal admission officer?
Yeah, I mean, we've already covered a ton, so I don't think any of these final thoughts are anything new, hopefully. But remember that, hey, if you have something unique that's happened to you that has happened to no one else ever in the world, then great, talk about it. That's awesome. But that's just probably not the case for most people, right? So don't get tied up. Don't lose all this sleep over, is this different from everyone else's? Focus on these two things. Is it genuine? Is it authentic? Is it about me? Is it my voice? Not to say no one else has ever gone through what you're describing, but as long as you're the one writing about it, it's your experience, it's your identity, then that's all you can ask for, right? So focus on that aspect of it. This is something that we haven't talked about it too much, but when you think about your personal statement, specifically in the context of your entire essay, you want to kind of find a balance. So it doesn't have to be a completely separate like idea or topic or concept that is not really hinted at anywhere else in your application, including things like letters of recommendation, right? It can be, but you don't have to strive to have it be completely different just for the sake of being separate from everything else in your application. But at the same time, and this is a much more common mistake, you don't want your personal statement to just be a repeat of something that we already learned about, maybe in your activities list, or a letter of recommendation already talks about it. So if you spend a ton of time in your activities list talking about, your robotics club or your physics club at the time you went to a competition, and you talk about those in your activities list, and you just write a personal statement that is kind of that same thing, but in more of a narrative form, that didn't really add anything for me, right? This is a really good opportunity to add something to your application, specifically you and your unique experiences and your unique identities. And then just this last thing is, Josh really said this very well, but you can very much just keep it simple. These are real everyday people. I mean, when I started reading admissions files, I think I was 21, maybe 22, like very young, just not that much older than you when you're writing this, right? So I'm not this like crazy old white guy, or it's not this like room with 20 old people from the 1960s, right, who don't know anything about your experiences. It's just not the reality of what a college admissions office looks like in 2023 for the most part. So focus on those things that people can relate to, the real human experience. Keep your writing effective, efficient, simple. And if you do that, people will relate to your essay. My very last point is, this personal statement is never going to be, in my opinion, like the one thing about your application where all of a sudden, oh, because you wrote about this, now you're getting in, right? So that's not to say it's not important. It's still very important, but just remember that it's part of your entire application profile. Your entire application tells a story, and this is just one part of it. So those would be my takeaways here.
Thank you, Quinn. For this week, Quinn has been stay up for very late and get up very early to review students' essay and give many valuable feedbacks. Thanks for your efforts, and you help a lot with our students like revision, that sort of things, and we really appreciate. Quinn 老师呢，他其实分享了一些很好的。最后的几个观点哈，那首先第一点还是那句话，大家一定要保持真实，以及说在这个过程中做出你自己写出你自己的这样的一个故事， 那第二点呢，其实老师也说了，那这个主文书呢是和你其他的一些申请中填到的信息是分开的，那相当于说这是一个很好的机会，你为你的申请补充一些信息。如果你只是把你的这个活动列表中的一个活动展开来描述了一下，那其实对于招生官来说，并没有看到更多的关于你的信息，或者是并没有为你的这个整个人的背景和简历去增添一些更多的对你有好处，展现你这个人的这样的一个部分。所以在这个过程中呢，在写作文书的过程中，你可以把它看成是一个很好的你去展现你更多的个人的色彩这样的一个机会。那你会发现 OK， 那我写的东西那在我的这个简历或者在我的申请的其他地方是看不到的，那就说明 OK 你利用了这个机会向招生官展示更多更丰富的你自己。然后最后一点呢，招生官老师也想要强调说其实你可以在这个过程中写出你的一些情绪、你的故事以及一些这个招生官在阅读的时候可以说感同身受的，或者说他们也能感受到你当时是什么样的一个想法、什么样的心态的这样的一些故事。那其实呢还是说你的故事要表现出你的这个人类具有人性美的这一面，这样的话在这个大家阅读的过程中也会收获非常愉悦的这样的一种体验。Okay, finally we are going to the Q&A session. I always enjoy much like reading through all the question list our audience sent to the chat box. But since we have limited like 5 minutes time, I will randomly pick only one question for us to quickly answer. And if our audience have more questions, feel free to reach out to our email. I think it's info@inamericaedu.com, or someone in the WeChat group or on the WeChat site will be able to assist you further. Okay, I am looking through the chat box. And I think it's always a question that parents are interested in that. So in the process of students drafting their own essay, revising their own essay, so as parents, is there anything parents can do to help the students like sort out their all the like previous experience and help them choose a topic or help them to do the like storytelling thing? So basically it's a question about how can parents help with this essay drafting or revision progress. So I think that's probably most of the parents in our like Zoom room are curious about. So if Joshua and Quinn, you have any idea you want to share, feel free to answer, but I will do the translation first. 好的，那我们在最后呢会进行一个问题的这样的一个回答。那如果大家有更多的这个问题呢，可以去私信这个小助手，或者是通过邮箱跟我们取得联系。那我们现在呢会回答一个家长的问题，就是说，那家长在文书写作这一块，是不是可以帮孩子去整理资料，或者是在文书写作的其他方面修改啊，或者是选择话题方面，家长们可以进行什么样的一些帮助呢？Okay, Joshua, go ahead.
So one of my pieces of advice, Quinn actually was talking about a little bit earlier, and this is one place that parents can jump in. I always have my students boil down their essay to a sentence or two. What do you want your takeaways to be? Because I think it's important, especially as Quinn highlighted in a quick and fast review process, you need to be able to identify those goals very quickly. So have your student write down their own goals, maybe a sentence or two of what they want their essay to accomplish. Then have a parent read it and see if that matches up. What does the parents' takeaways? Does it match the students' takeaways or what they hope their takeaways would be? So I think that's a really wonderful piece of advice. And then the other thing that I'd say, and this is for younger students, so this is for students who aren't applying to college just yet, I would say parents, encourage your students to read. This is one of the things that I always find to be really, really beneficial. It helps with vocabulary, syntax, sentence structure. Being a reader improves writing abilities. So if you have a younger student, that's one of the ways that you can really prepare them for essay writing is by having them read tons right now.
Thank you, Joshua. Quinn, do you have any add-ons?
Yeah, I'll just kind of echo what Josh said for sure. I mean, I still feel that in my, I'm, much older than you who are writing essays, and I still feel much more inspired when I write if I feel like I've been reading lately. If I've just been watching Netflix or YouTube and then I try to write, it's just kind of like, well, there's nothing up there, right? So for me, at least. The other thing I'll say about the parent aspect of this is remember that you can definitely help your child proofread, right? You can say, oh, this sentence, it's literally like doesn't have good syntax, or that's not how you use a comma or something like that. But please don't try to write your child's essay. It's unethical and it won't be their true unique voice, right? So you can definitely help them with some of those little things, but you shouldn't be writing entire sentences or paragraphs and then saying, "Oh, throw this in there. This is way better." That's not what this is about. So yeah. Otherwise, those be some takeaways.
Thank you both. 好的，两位老师也是对这个问题给出了一些解答。首先，第一点就是，其实各位家长可以去鼓励孩子们在写作前就进行广泛的阅读，去读说 OK， 那我的这个经历其实跟在哲学上或者在其他学科上有什么样的这样的一种反应，或者说教他们去学习更多写作的这样的一些技巧，让他们广泛的阅读。那第二点呢，就是其实家长可以帮助孩子去看去审视他们的文章，说这是不是符合实际情况的，以及说家长有什么样的建议也可以温和的提出来。但是我们一定不建议的是，就是家长一定不要为孩子写一句话，或者是强迫孩子把某一句话放在哪一个段落里，或者是放在哪一个位置，这些其实都会破坏孩子这个写作的这个完整性。所以说在整个过程中，其实家长还是起到的这样的一种辅助的作用。OK， 好的，非常感谢大家的提问和老师们的解答。相信通过今天我们的沟通，大家对于写文书这一个东西也有了更多的了解。那如果说大家有更多的问题，欢迎在微信群里面联系我们的工作人员，或者是通过邮件联系我们。那再次感谢大家的参与，非常开心今天能跟大家一起探讨这个话题，祝大家度过愉快的一天。Okay, thanks for all the questions from our audience, and thanks Joshua and Quinn for joining and sharing today. I hope we are delivering more tips to our audience, so our students and audience parents will have more idea, or will get more tips about the essay drafting and revision. And thanks for joining our audience and our guest speakers, and have a good day, and we will see you maybe next time in the webinar. Thank you guys. Bye.